Affinity Plus helped me a lot to pass through this tough time.
My family was negatively affected.
Affinity Plus showed that they are invested in our success.
You are the top priority.
And they did it proactively.
I have found them to be respectful, supportive, and compassionate.
I don't feel judged.
I feel when I go, I'm in safe hands.
And that is why I bank with
Affinity Plus.
Welcome, everybody, to the second edition of Gopher Football Review and Preview. Thanks to our friends at Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union. I'm Justin Gaard. And thanks, everybody who joined us last week as we really had nothing to review. We previewed the Michigan game. I appreciate all the feedback. Appreciate everybody jumping on the stream and then watching it a little bit later. Tell your friends about this if there's some Gopher fans out there that you think might be interested in our show. We're going to be here every single week on all of our social media platforms. We're going to be streaming live on Wednesday nights, and then you'll be able to watch it basically forever, thanks to the great work that AJ Mansour and the fan team do with it. Big thanks again to Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union. They've been great Gopher supporters for many years, great supporters here at the Fan, great supporters of me as well. I've had a lot of fun getting to know them the last few years and appreciate them jumping on with this new venture. One of the cool things when you become an Affinity Plus member is you get access to their top-rated mobile app, which we're all doing everything online now, and Affinity Plus mobile app, very easy to use. You're going to see it in a commercial I did with Carly Zucker here coming up in the next couple of weeks, but affinityplus.org is the website to learn more about becoming a member, learn more about their services, learn more about their people, because that is the cool part about Affinity Plus. The people that work there are first class in every way. So if you joined us last week, you know that we typically like to have one of my friends join and a Gopher coach. Because the game is Friday this week against Maryland, it's a little bit more difficult to get a coach this week. We are going to have one next week and moving forward, but I'm very excited, and it's going to be dramatic. He doesn't even know I'm bringing him up. Here he is. Ron Johnson. You may have heard of him. You may have seen him. You may be following his Instagram, his Twitter, or now his TikTok videos. But he's when you have Ron Johnson, you don't need a second guest. You don't need a Gopher coach to join for a Friday night game. So at 3, Ron Johnson is my guy today. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. Can't complain.
Tell me about the footballs right behind you. What do those footballs represent?
Okay. So one is the my first touchdown in the NFL. So the very first game versus the Panthers, my rookie year. I was blessed enough to score a touchdown in the NFL, which is, everybody doesn't get that opportunity. So definitely thankful for that. And then the second one was a punt block for a touchdown against like the Bengals, I think. Probably one of the worst dances I've ever done in the end zone. I watched they did like a thing on Ed Reed, and I saw it come up again. I'm like, oh, that's the worst dance. It was called the wet pants dance.
The wet pants, okay.
Yeah, because it was freezing cold, and so we were all joking because somebody got wet. I'm like, how it is, first tackle, you slide in the water, and this is turf, so it's like grass and muddy. And so the way they were walking, it just looked like a dance. We're like, oh, we're going to do the wet pants dance. So when I scored, we were like, whoever scores, let's do the wet pants. And now looking at it, I'm like, 40-year-old me looks at 21-year-old me like, dude, what were you thinking? That was a terrible decision. Like, you could have done any dance and you decided to do the wet pants. But other than that, it's a picture of my dad back there.
Yeah.
His Super Bowl ball for going to the Super Bowl, and then also the tickets from the 1979 Super Bowl. So the actual tickets.
That's awesome.
My granddad, when he passed away, they were in my granddad's basement, which crazy enough, they were just in an envelope. Like my granddad didn't even realize how, valuable actual 1979 Super Bowl tickets were. And if I remember, I think the price is like $35. That's all it costs.
It's cheap
to go to a Super Bowl back then.
Well, you got a good setup back there. Very, very nicely manicured. You got the oars behind you as well, which I know are important to you. I want to talk before we review the Gopher game against Michigan, which didn't go as planned, didn't go very well, and preview what's coming up on Friday night. Some breaking Big Ten news, and I don't know if we're going to do a COVID update every single week on this show or not, but it's the team to our east, Wisconsin's football team. All week, the last couple of days, we've been wondering, okay, Graham Mertz, great performance against Illinois on Friday night, may have tested positive. His backup may have tested positive. They might be down to their fourth-string quarterback this week against Nebraska. They don't have to worry about that, at least, because on Wednesday morning they announced that they would be suspending their team activities because they've, I guess, passed the 5% team testing threshold for the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no game now against Nebraska, and they have to reassess. The way it works in the Big Ten is you've got to pause basically for a week and then reassess to see if you can play further down the road. So they've obviously got more games coming up, but this Wisconsin and Nebraska game now off the schedule. What do you make of all this?
Yeah, it's tough. Honestly, I did want to see them play. I know they're happy probably without their quarterbacks and coach. They're probably happy. Like, look, we'll just take this as a whatever, disqualified, and we won't play this one because honestly, without their quarterback, but the way Nebraska looked, to be honest, I think Wisconsin had enough weapons.
I agree.
They still could have won that game by 3 touchdowns because Nebraska just looked anemic, and so I think Wisconsin probably still wanted to play this game. Nebraska did not scare them whatsoever. Honestly, I think Nebraska's probably happy that this game was canceled because then they don't have to have another week like they had last week.
So it's a week they have to pause, reassess. Their next game is scheduled for November 7th against Purdue. That one would be at Camp Randall. We mentioned it's 6 players right now and 6 staff members, including the head coach, Paul Chryst. A little bit different for coaches. If the players are out 3 weeks, coaches, it's basically 10 days, and then they get reassessed. So Chryst could technically coach that next game, but it's the way of the world in 2020, right, Ron? We got 1 week of Big Ten play before everything else got interrupted. And because of how they chose to do their schedule, basically just run it through 9 straight weeks, there's no margin for error.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was the Titans first or who in the NFL, but Wisconsin's following suit. One of those teams where everybody's going to hate if this continues to happen and they continue to not do the things. But, I mean, peak Wisconsin, I heard on the radio on K-Fan today, somebody would comment, man, he asked the guy from Wisconsin, hey, do you wear your mask when you go into town and go into the store? And the guy's response was like, yeah, sometimes, but not always. It's like, come on, man. Like, it's not that hard. But again, who knows what these players are doing? If multiple quarterbacks had it, then clearly somebody in that room had it, and too close to everybody else. Because I think people are still forgetting. Yes, we were clear, but you still need to kind of social distance. There's no reason to be up in somebody's face having a conversation with them in 2020. Like, let's still social distance within the meeting room. Let's get through this year and then, reevaluate next year.
And they are the favorites right now to win the Big Ten West. They need to play 6 games. If people are wondering about that, they need to play 6 games to be eligible to represent the West on that side. So they really can't afford, they can miss basically 1 other game besides this one before they get below that threshold. All right. So that's the news of the day in college football. Let's review before we preview, Ron. Let's go back to Saturday night, TCF Bank Stadium against Michigan. Unbelievable start, block punt, touchdown a couple of plays later. Gophers are up 7-0. 1 play later, it's 7-7 because the Gophers gave up a 70-yard touchdown, and the rest was pretty much history, right? I mean, how do you summarize what you saw on Saturday night before we talk some specifics?
Yeah, I was excited after that first kind of series because it's like, look, here we go. This is what we expected. They kind of carried over from the Auburn game. It looked like they had the momentum. It looked like everything was going, and then you start to see the missing players, the Daniel Fa'aleles, the Curtis Dunlaps, the punter, the kicker, all those guys being out changed a lot of PJ's decisions. And again, it's not like everybody else is not dealing with this. So PJ's just going to do what he does and come up with a plan. But you did see a quick turn to the fact that Michigan is bigger. They're stronger.
Yeah.
Their defensive line was just, I would have loved to see Fa'alele and Dunlap versus Michigan's front 7 because, number 19 is a pro. He's a first-round pick most likely. If you look at his size, his body work, he came back for another year. He could have left last year. And when you just understand that aspect of he came back because at the time he didn't know what was going to happen. He came back because he's like, hey, I want to, like just like a lot of guys, ETN from Clemson, I want to come back. And they made that decision back in February because I want to win a national championship. Well, then COVID happens and all hell breaks loose. But if you look at what Michigan did as far as just dominating, punch somebody in the mouth, backyard street fight, they came to attack and they kept attacking after that first play.
Defense, to me, is really the biggest question mark because we'll talk about the offense as we go. They're going to have enough, I think, to do pretty much what they want to do in the Big Ten. Special teams is one of those you just throw it out because they were missing so many guys. But the defense, how often did we talk in the preseason, Ron, and even going back to last year, thinking they're going to have to replace a lot of guys on defense? It's kind of a parallel conversation with the Vikings where they've got a bunch of new faces, and I think we saw there's no easing into the schedule this year. It's kind of like the Vikings had to go up against Aaron Rodgers right away. Gophers had to go up against a really good Michigan team, and we saw that inexperience right out of the gate, and those guys are going to need to get better quickly if the Gophers want to have, a successful season this year and one that people feel good about.
Yeah, like PJ said, it's gap integrity. So when you think about the long run, somebody was missing in that gap. You never have a defense where you leave a gap open. If all the defensive linemen and all the linebackers all take a fit, then there has to be a strong safety to fill it, which used to be Antoine Winfield Jr. Now you're missing kind of that extra captain, that guy that's going to put his nose in there and make a hit in the hole and actually meet the running back before he gets going, a la Ryan Clark, Troy Polamalu type guys that come up, Cam Chancellors. The Gophers don't have that. So how do they overcome it? Well, Kamal Martin used to be the rover. He would move around. He would do a lot. Again, you have to find a guy, whether it's Sori Marin, who knows who's going to emerge and be that guy that we're like, okay, this is the guy of the defense, but you did not see that guy on Saturday. There's not a guy that jumped out on film on defense that you're like, okay, this is what the Gophers defense is going to be about. And that's the problem. Offensively, we saw Rashad Bateman. We saw Mo Ibrahim. So we understand what they're going to try to get out of those two. And then, like PJ said, they need to find a third receiver. I've said that all offseason. You got Crab, you got Bateman. You got to find a number 3 guy, whoever that is, whether it is the tight end, because we've been so high up on Span 4, but we didn't see anything from him. So maybe it's all in our mind. Maybe 6'8" is just in our minds, and we want him to be something that he's not. And that's what they're going to decide and figure out really early.
Well, can you take us through, as a guy who's, obviously played at a really high level and have played under different coaches and probably under different systems, it did look, PJ has said a lot, like losing Kirk Shiraka, he brought in Mike Sanford Jr., and that a lot of things are going to be the same. They're going to have the same principles and everything. But I'll be honest, I know they had the read option and things like that, but we saw things on Saturday that we haven't seen much of, right? Whether it is like the jet sweeps to Rashad, whether it is Mo Ibrahim being basically a fullback on a couple of plays to run, to block. In a couple of runs, he did a really nice job, but there were definitely some differences from what we've seen, in the PJ Fleck era. As you kind of looked at the offense of what they want to try to be, what were some of those differences that you saw?
Yeah, well, first, we didn't see the RPO. You didn't really see a ton of him sticking the ball in, having a run-pass option. You didn't see a lot of the kind of bubble quick screen stuff or the tunnel screen stuff where they get the receivers flowing, the line flowing, receiver comes underneath. You didn't see any quick just hitches and, slants. It was kind of timing stuff. And with a young guy, coming in as far as that third receiver, you might want to get him some early passes if you're going to need him down the road, down the game. And you didn't see that. You saw a team that established the run kind of, and then got stagnant and didn't really know what to do next. And so again, it's play calling is like playing John Madden. Everybody is different. Everybody sees differences on the field. The one thing PJ brought up, and I saw the same thing, some of the stuff's on Tanner. Like, he's got to understand, if he sees a safety right on top of a cornerback at about 4 yards, something's going to happen because nobody covers a guy that close. And so that's little things where if he looks over to his right, he sees that guy there, he's either got to check it, because they look to the sideline to get the play. He's either got to check it or he's got to motion. I don't know if he has that ability, but motion Rashad so that he can then see. Because if he motions and then that safety stays, now you see that safety creep, because most college kids don't know to take both guys across. They're going to go man, and they're going to take the one guy covering Rashad, which is going to be the safety. That corner would have probably stayed and been confused, or Michigan would have done some kind of check and gone back to a zone. But that's the stuff whenever you see, and that's why, I always go back to Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson. Look at Justin Fields with Ohio State. You saw a lot of that with he was moving guys around. Trevor Lawrence. Again, I'm naming greats, but when you look at the mental side of it, and I say that because Tanner was right there with those guys last season. When you look at efficiency, he was in the top 5 with all those names, and so he's going to have to learn from that. Again, they didn't have the first 3 games. They didn't have training camp to kind of learn this stuff. So him and Sanford they haven't had a time to really just be together. All of a sudden you're thrust into this thing and say, hey, we're going to play in 2 weeks. Let's go do it. Sanford Jr.'s new. He's going to have to learn these guys and what they're good at. But Tanner's going to have to understand, I can't stare at Rashad. Because PJ said, we want to get Rashad the ball. Yeah. If I know Rashad's the guy, I've got to maybe look at the safety, look at my first or second read, and then come to Rashad, knowing Rashad's going to do what Rashad's going to do. He's going to get open. I can't stare him down hoping to know where he's going to be. And I think that was kind of the early just cobwebs.
Well, interesting on Rashad, I wanted to go there next. It seemed to me they were, I don't know if you were in town for this, but Mike Tice used to have a thing called the Randy ratio when he got the head coaching job with the Vikings. He basically said, we've got to find a way to get Randy Moss the ball. And there was a certain amount of like touches that he would get a game that Tice presumed or Tice theorized got them victories. Well, he tells everybody in the league, like, we're going to get the ball to Randy, which everybody knows anyway, but they tried different things with him. It seemed to me earlier on, they were trying to do like a Bateman ratio, running him on those jets, which Rashad can do a lot of things. He's obviously a first-round talent. He's probably the greatest wide receiver in the history of the school, present company notwithstanding. But I'm thinking that's not really – like Rashad isn't Rondale Moore. You know what I mean? Like that – like it almost seemed like they were trying to do too much with Rashad. Those plays didn't work. They took him out of a kind of a touchdown situation. They almost had a fumble because the center got trucked on one of them. And then I think later on they just said, let's just throw it to him. Let's just let them like you said, let Rashad do what he does, get open, make tough catches. He made some unbelievable catches. It was fun to watch the byplay between he and the Michigan cornerback. But what did you think about the different ways that they clearly wanted to try to get him the ball early on?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of longer receivers doing jet sweeps. I get he's fast, but jet sweeps are Tyreek Hill type, quick twitch guys. And so whether it's Crab, whether it's one of your running backs, I know they like Mott. So somebody like that where he can still play receiver, and then every once in a while do a jet sweep just to get an extra body in there. But yeah, I think the Demetrius Douglas piece, that's probably Demetrius Douglas play this year, and he's gone. That's the stuff where I think they're just trying to manufacture explosive plays, and that's not his cup of tea. He's not a quick stop, make a guy miss guy. He's a straight line, straightforward speed guy, and that's where they've got to stick to what they were doing: deep routes, sluggos, but also understanding, and Tanner has to understand this. If I send Rashad Bateman on a sluggo, which is a slant and go, the back complementary route is a seam. So if I stare Rashad down and I see that safety move, I know the seam's wide open. That's the stuff that Tanner's going to have to do. But again, it comes back to trust. We saw from Kirk Cousins early in the season, he was throwing Adam Thielen a bunch, didn't trust anybody else. Right. He now trusts Justin Jefferson. That's where Tanner's going to have to, he's going to have to, I think he trusts Crab, but he's going to have to trust Crab like he trusted Bateman last year, where he had two guys that no matter what the call was, he knew he had two guys he can count on. Right now, it feels a little forced to Rashad. And so, yeah, he's going to have to figure out other ways to get the ball to other guys, and then let Rashad be a receiver. He's not a running back.
If you just jumped on the stream, that's Ron Johnson. I'm Justin Gaard. This is Gopher Football Review and Preview thanks to Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union. Video banking is now live with your Affinity Plus team, from new memberships to new loans, or even just general questions about all the different services that Affinity Plus can provide for you. Check out Affinity Plus employees are eager to help you with all of your banking needs. Try it out, affinityplus.org. On the video banking piece, just type, check the tab, contact us, and someone will be in touch with you. Thanks again to Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union for helping us out with this show and so many other Gopher-related deals, as they are proud sponsors of Gopher Athletics. And our final couple of minutes, Ron, Maryland. I watched the game against Northwestern for some reason, preparation, I suppose, and their quarterback, Tua's younger brother, Taulia, looked unbelievable in the first drive. Maryland marches down the field. They ended up having to kick a field goal, but they've got three really good wide receivers, it appears. Put together a really good drive, go up 3-0. They didn't score the rest of the night. And Tua's brother threw a couple of picks. I think they had 3 turnovers in general. It was 43-3. So what do we make of this Maryland team and Coach Mike Locksley's second season?
Yeah, we talked about this on the Fox 9 Gopher pregame show, that Northwestern Stadium can lull you to sleep. And just playing them, it's just, and I think that's what happened. Maryland kind of got lulled to sleep. Northwestern as a whole is just an anomaly sometimes. You never know what you're going to get out of that team. You have a team that can beat Michigan on a Friday night and then go out to lose to Michigan State on a Saturday by 25. You just don't know what team you're going to get. Maryland, similar. Maryland lost by 40 points. But then you might get next week a Maryland on Friday night that all of a sudden hitting on all cylinders. The running backs are breaking long runs, because we've seen that with Maryland versus Minnesota, where if you miss a guy, and that's when you bring up the receivers. They have athletes, they have talent. If they throw a slant and you miss a guy and you only have him in the safety, good luck, because these guys can make you miss. They're long, they're strong, they're fast. Joker Phillips has worked timelessly with Mike Locksley and those coaches to get receivers in there, not just receivers, but transfers in there to beat the guys. And they're trying to find lightning in the bottle with some of these older transfers. And again, they didn't have a preseason. They didn't have 3 games. They didn't have a training camp. And we know the East Coast was one of the worst when it came to like not doing anything, stay away from each other.
Right.
And so that's the one thing. Sorry. Somebody's calling me. Oh, whoa.
Uh-oh. This is the beauty of a stream show. People that are listening to the fan on Friday night too. Ron's camera almost broke. Football still in play.
Yeah, people are calling me.
Everything's
falling off. Pet saws are falling off. But anyway, so that's what I make of Maryland. Maryland is defensively, I think they're pedestrian. They're okay. Offensively is where they can really hurt you. So they are a team. If they get going, they can go score for score. And what Northwestern did that the Gophers are going to have to do is give them zero hope, because Tagovailoa has that in his body, Tonga or whatever, however you say it, Tua Tagovailoa or Tungavailoa.
Mm-hmm.
Talia, he has it in his system that he's a winner. His brother has it. And so if he gets going finally, because we know he didn't get his opportunity at Alabama. And so now if he gets going, he's a kid that can will them with those athletes. But again, he is willing to throw some picks. And so these DBs have to have a heads up. But I'm looking forward to Rossi trying to figure out, the right mix of guys, because maybe he needs to put a guy like Tyler Nubin in the box. And he's more like a box, Blake Cashman type of guy, where he is a safety, but his body type is big enough that he can take on tight ends, and like a J-Ron Curse, where you're using him to deal with some of these athletes and not losing speed, trying to have a linebacker out there covering a receiver, and maybe bringing a Benny Sapp in at safety and letting him play a little bit. I mean, who knows what it's going to look like on Friday, but they're going to have to figure it out.
39 freshmen on Maryland's team and 18 transfers, so 57 new guys. And to your point about the pandemic out east, there was a time about a month ago where we weren't even sure like their press box was going to be open to local media. Like as it is, there's no friends or family even at this game. At TCF Bank Stadium, it was family, I should say. Each player got to bring a couple of people. Out there, it's going to be just us. It's just the teams and then who's ever working at the game. So to blend all those new pieces together, I think you're seeing some of those growing pains with Maryland right now.
Yeah, it's tough. Like I said, 57 guys. So I mean, imagine 57 rookies walking into a room, and then you say, "All right, sorry, go home. We'll talk to you on video." So now you're learning everybody's personality via Zoom, and you're trying to understand each other, and you got 57 people in a meeting room trying to talk. We already hate Zoom calls. I can imagine being an 18-year-old or a 20-year-old trying to sit there and listen to my coach explain the X's and O's via Zoom. And I'm sitting there like, man, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah.
And then you're not allowed to be on the field with this guy. So as far as Tagovailoa goes, he doesn't know how this guy runs a hitch. He doesn't know how this guy runs a slant. And then you're like, all right, 2 weeks, go out there, get it going. We're going to play. I mean, it's tough. But again, everybody is out there doing the same, but this team is put behind the 8 ball by having so many newcomers.
I appreciate you, man. It's been good working with you again on Fox 9. I missed you. Didn't see you in person for basically like 6 months. Now I see you twice a week, even though we're about 8 feet away. We got a Friday night pregame show this week, and then the PJ Flex show next week. I appreciate you taking the time on the Gopher Review Preview show.
I'm excited. This is my first Gopher game I get to drink and watch the game because we don't have to do anything on Saturday. So
that's true.
This is great.
You can enjoy it.
Besides Halloween. So
it's Friday night. Yeah, you can drink.
Are we wearing costumes on Friday? Like, are we going to wear masks or something?
You can. I'll be in Maryland, so I'm going to.
Oh yeah, you're there.
I'm going to be low profile. So you do whatever Hobie, and you can do whatever you need to do. I'm going to be.
You should dress up like Jason and see if they let you in the press box.
Probably not a good idea. Thanks, man. I appreciate you.
All right.
That is Ron Johnson. Follow him at @Ron Johnson on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of those things. Thanks again for checking us out on the live stream or on the fan if you're listening here as well. Remind you that Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union is our great partner on this endeavor all year long. Thank you to them for their support all year long and in the past as well. They've been a proud sponsor of Gopher Athletics, and we appreciate that. You can bank on the go very easily with Affinity Plus. They've got a top-rated mobile app, which is spectacular. To learn more about the app on your mobile device, you can search Affinity Plus in the app or Play Store. Very easy to get that done. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. Thanks for listening. We will talk to you next week on the Gopher Review Preview Show.
At Affinity Plus, Our members come first.
Affinity Plus helped me a lot to pass through this tough time.
My family was negatively affected.
Affinity Plus showed that they are invested in our success.
You are the top priority.
And they did it proactively.
I have found them to be respectful, supportive, and compassionate.
I don't feel judged.
I feel when I go, I'm in safe hands.
And that is why I bank with
With Affinity
Plus.
Plus.